Graduation can begin with a $30 cap and gown. It can grow into a package costing around $165. Or, if you combine a premium package, a solid gold class ring, a yearbook, and an upgraded portrait sitting, the total can climb past $1,450 before tax, shipping, or photo prints. Those three figures come from a small sample of real school forms published for 2025 and 2026. They are not a national average, and the premium total is an illustration assembled across different schools, not one checkout that families normally see. But together they reveal why the price of graduation is so difficult to pin down. Graduation is not one product, it is a ceremony surrounded by products. Some are required, some are optional, and some are optional in theory, but marketed at the exact moment when a student is being told to celebrate a once-in-a-lifetime milestone. One of the biggest names across that system is Jostens. According to its owner Platinum Equity's own marketing, Jostens has a presence in 75% of United States high schools. That is the owner's claim, not an independently verified measurement. And the owner's wording is presence, not market share. What it does show is how familiar the name has become. Jostens sells graduation regalia, class rings, yearbooks, announcements, apparel, and other school keepsakes. A student may encounter the company several times before walking across the stage. So what are families actually paying for? And how much choice do they have? Start by separating the ceremony from the celebration around it. At some schools, a specific cap, gown, tassel, stole, or medallion is required to participate. The school wants graduates to look consistent, and it decides what counts as compatible regalia. The rest may include announcement cards, hoodies, keychains, diploma frames, yearbooks, portrait upgrades, and class rings. Those purchases can matter deeply to a family, but they are not the same thing as the minimum needed to join the ceremony. On a 2025 Seneca Valley form, the cap and gown alone cost just under $30. The same form marketed larger packages from about $60 to nearly $190. That does not tell us which package students usually bought. There is no sales data on the form. It simply shows how a required item can sit beside a much larger bundle. Other schools show that even the required purchase is not always fixed. For Pennsylvania Cyber's class of 2026, the required cap, gown, and tassel started around $32, then rose in steps as graduation approached, eventually passing $60. At Woodinville High, the required unit started just under $60 and climbed to almost $80 after later deadlines. But Woodinville also documented an alternative. A student could borrow compatible regalia and buy the required school stole for about $22. That is real choice, but it is choice inside the school's rules. An old gown from a sibling may work if it matches. A random gown bought online may not. The same difference appears with class rings. On one official Jostens program form for St. Joseph's Academy's class of 2027, a base alloy ring was listed at about $340. Sterling silver was $550. A gold-filled option was $470. Solid 10-karat gold reached $1,160 before tax and shipping. Open retail listings sampled at Walmart in July 2026 showed a different price world. Some base alloy personalized rings were around $90 to $130. Sampled sterling rings ranged much more widely from below $50 to more than $200. One gold-plated sterling example was around $210. These are two different sales channels, not identical products lined up for a perfect comparison. An official school program may include approved designs, school-specific details, fitting help, a warranty, and service from a representative. An open retail ring may offer a different design, material, warranty, or buying experience, and the metal descriptions matter. Gold-plated, gold-filled, and solid 10-karat gold are not three names for the same thing, nor does every ring design necessarily come in every metal. The narrow lesson is simple. A family can find alternatives, but the cheapest retail listing does not reveal what an official ring costs to make or what its markup must be. In fact, there is no public current per ring manufacturing breakdown that supports that calculation. The same is true for a graduation gown. Fabric appearance is not a production invoice. Customization, materials, school-specific designs, licensing, warranties, sales service, and raw inputs may all affect price. Without the company's current unit economics, pretending to know the exact factory cost would replace an unanswered question with a guess. To understand how this business became so large, we have to step back in time. In a 2005 filing, Jostens management estimated that the company held roughly 40 to 50% across its major product lines. It also estimated an annual school affinity market of about $1.5 billion, serving roughly 16,500 high schools and 5,300 colleges. Those figures describe management's view in 2005. They are not current market share, current market size, or a current count of schools. An older financial snapshot also shows that the graduation business extended well beyond caps and gowns. In fiscal 2014, the parent company's roughly $832 million in revenue was spread across several categories. Memory books and yearbooks made up about 39%. Graduation and affinity products were about 29%. Class rings and jewelry were around 22%. Book components supplied the remaining 11%. That is a historical company mix, not a description of what Jostens sells today. But it explains why the economics of graduation cannot be reduced to one robe or one ring. The business was built across several products, all connected to the same schools and the same annual cycle of students. That scale also helps explain an almost merger that attracted federal scrutiny. In late 2013, Jostens signed an agreement to acquire American Achievement. The deal carried a total transaction value of about $486 million. That was not simply a cash price handed to the owners. It included repayment of roughly $385 million in debt and related costs, along with fees and other transaction amounts. In 2014, the Federal Trade Commission challenged the deal. The FTC alleged that the proposed acquisition would leave only one smaller, meaningful competitor in high school and college class ring markets, and would likely lead to higher prices and reduced service. Those were the agency's allegations and predicted effects, not facts established by a court. The complaint also described how some schools chose an exclusive on-campus ring seller through formal or informal processes. College programs could select one official vendor, while some approved several. And the FTC's own account said school officials considered price, quality, and service, and could replace a representative who performed poorly. So even inside a restricted sales channel, the evidence did not say price was irrelevant, or that schools never compared vendors. The companies abandoned the proposed deal in April 2014 before a court ruled on the allegations. The FTC later dismissed its administrative case. The accurate conclusion is that the FTC challenged the deal and the companies walked away. The record contains no court ruling on whether the deal violated antitrust law, and the allegations do not establish how every school market works. Jostens itself continued through a long chain of owners. DLJ acquired the company in 2003 for about $471 million in cash consideration to stock and warrant holders. A DLJ and KKR parent configuration followed in 2004. Jardine acquired the parent business in 2015 in a deal valued around $1.5 billion, including debt repaid. Newell acquired Jarden in 2016. Platinum Equity then acquired Jostens in 2018 for about $1.3 billion. That is 4 ownership changes after the 2003 acquisition, producing 5 ownership configurations. As of July 2026, Platinum still listed Jostens as an active portfolio company. Back at the family level, the deadline can matter almost as much as the product. The Pennsylvania Cyber and Woodinville forms both used rising price steps. The same required regalia became more expensive as the ceremony approached. That can reflect the added difficulty of late ordering and fulfillment, but the forms do not provide a cost breakdown. What the family sees is simpler: order early or pay more. College regalia belongs in a separate category with its own rules and prices. At Case Western Reserve in 2026, a bachelor's ensemble cost about $69 to buy. At the same university, custom doctoral regalia cost about $187 to rent, compared with more than $1,100 to buy. That is a doctoral-to-doctoral comparison at one institution. It does not mean every college offers rentals, or that a bachelor's student faces a $1,000 choice. Then come the keepsakes that can quietly widen the total. At Centerville High, a yearbook rose from $65 to $75 after New Year's Day in 2026. At Colgan High, the basic senior sitting needed for the yearbook was free. Optional upgraded sittings cost $10, $20, or $30. Those were sitting fees, not the prices of printed photo packages. And in one sentence of corporate history, Jostens sold its United States and Canadian school photography businesses to LifeTouch in 2006, but by July 2026, it was offering school photography again under Jostens Picks. Put these pieces together, and the 3 opening totals make more sense. The mandatory new regalia minimum in this small named school sample started around $32 at Pennsylvania Cyber and around $60 at Woodinville when ordered early. Woodinville's borrowing option could reduce the cash purchase to a required stole, costing about $22. Seneca Valley marketed an optional package around $165. It was one offered bundle, not evidence of the most common family choice. And the premium illustration combined 4 prices from different schools. Seneca Valley's largest package, a solid 10-carat ring from the St. Joseph's form, a $75 Centerville yearbook, and Colgan's $30 deluxe sitting fee. Together, they reached about $1,450 before tax, shipping, and any photo prints. No single school sold that exact basket. It is not a national average and does not suggest families normally buy everything. The point is not that graduation costs one fixed amount. The point is how quickly optional products can expand the distance between participating in the ceremony and buying the complete senior year experience. One Florida school district shows why the rules around vendor selection and contract oversight can matter. But the story has 2 separate parts, and they cannot be blended together. First is Broward County's 2022 agreement. In a follow-up released in January 2024, district auditors reported about $16,300 in district overbilling tied to Herff Jones and about $5,400 tied to Jostens. The report says Jostens reimbursed the district. That finding belongs to one district and one agreement. It does not establish how either vendor billed schools nationally. Jostens became Broward's sole cap-and-gown vendor in early 2023, but that status did not last. Under the district's revised 2025 contract, Herff Jones was listed as the primary vendor and Jostens as the alternate for a term running through the end of 2028. This next episode involved a different contract period, 2016 to 2021, and Chuck Pulleri and Associates, A Herff-Jones distributor. Jostens was not involved. Under that earlier Broward agreement, the amended submitted price was $44 in total, $29 for the cap, gown, and tassel, plus $15 for the medallion. The later records attach 3 different dollar measures to what followed. They need to stay on 3 different lines. About $331,000 was estimated as student and parent overbilling. About $231,000 was identified as district overbilling in the primary audit follow-up, and a separately reported demand letter from October 2023 sought about $301,000. The demand letter amount is not the parent and student estimate, and it is not the district audit figure. Treating the 3 as interchangeable would change what each number means. The Broward State Attorney's Office closed its review in August 2023. Its conclusion was that ineffective contract management led to a breach of contract but did not rise to criminal activity. That distinction matters. This was not a Jostens episode, and the prosecutor did not characterize it as a crime. After Broward reworked the process, reported pricing fell. The old total was $44. Reporting put the 2022 price at $29. And the district's revised 2025 price sheet listed a $20 Herff-Jones unit and a $30 Jostens unit, each covering the cap, gown, tassel, and medallion. The sequence shows that prices fell after the process changed. It does not prove that competition alone caused the decrease. Product terms, contract design, vendor obligations, timing, and other factors may also have changed. Nor does Broward tell us how every American school chooses vendors or monitors invoices. It tells us what happened under particular agreements in one district. So, what is the real price of graduation? At the lowest end of this sample, it is the required item that gets a student onto the field or into the auditorium. Order timing can move that price, and a school-approved borrowing option can lower it. Above that sits a ladder of choices: announcements, apparel, keepsakes, portraits, yearbooks, and rings in materials that can move the price from hundreds to more than $1,000. Retail alternatives exist, but they may not duplicate the design, service, warranty, or school approval of the official program. That difference does not reveal manufacturing cost, and it does not make every higher price automatically reasonable. For vendors, each graduating class creates a new group of customers. For schools, an established representative can offer familiar ordering, delivery, and service. But the historical record also shows that price, quality, service, and contract management matter, and that vendor arrangements can change. For families, the practical questions are more immediate. What is actually required? Can compatible regalia be borrowed? Does the price rise after a deadline? Is the larger package adding products you want, or merely surrounding the required item? If a ring matters, are you comparing the same metal, customization, warranty, and service? And which purchases can simply be declined? The cap and gown may be the symbol everyone sees. The real business is the system wrapped around it: the school rules, the approved sales channel, the deadline, and the stack of optional memories offered before the student leaves. It is a system families often don't get to choose, even when they still choose how much to buy.